In the penultimate episode of Industry Season 2, Harper, Myhala, and Eric, Ken Leung, summon Rishi, Sagar Radia, for a late-night rendezvous at the Pierpoint offices to plan their strategic departure from the company. When Rishi walks in, wearing dark clothes and a baseball cap, Eric asks, "Why are you dressed like Kendall Roy?" Eric was right, he really was channeling Kendall, Jeremy Strong, at that moment, but Industry's latest episode proved that this line was more than just a cheeky reference to Succession, a show Industry is often compared to, but a moment of foreshadowing. In Episode 4, White Mischief, Eric's Season 2 jab takes on new meaning as we watch Rishi's life spiral out of control in a way that screams Kendall Roy. The episode takes us through a dizzying 48 hours of Rishi's life in what is arguably the most stressful episode of an already stressful series, highlighting his gambling problem and erratic behavior. Comparisons to Uncut Gems are appropriate and intentional, according to co-creator Mickey Down, but Rishi's cycle of self-sabotage also resembles that of HBO's most iconic and miserable finance bro. Prior to Sunday night's episode, Rishi's character remained largely on the outskirts of Industry and was most often heard rather than seen. Amid the chaos of the trading floor, Rishi's crude quips and anecdotes bring some much-needed comic relief. According to Industry creators Mickey Down and Comrade K, they had first used Rishi's character to add authenticity to the high-pressure Pierpoint environment, having worked with people like him during their time in the finance industry. Like Eric, Rishi had a larger role in Season 2, which also introduced his fiancée Diana, Emily Barber, and their marital strife is just one of many stressors in Rishi's life as shown in Episode 4. White Mischief puts Rishi under a microscope, revealing the broken man behind the brash overconfidence and creative insults whose life revolves around his addictions to cocaine, sex, and gambling. Rishi's character has been defined by his abrasive behavior on the trading floor, but Episode 4 shows how the toxicity he brings to the environment affects those around him, especially his younger colleagues. Though he takes Anrich, Irfan Shamji, under his wing, he also bullies him and takes advantage of him, forcing him to go millions over his limit and putting him at risk of losing his license. He has a pretty open disdain for women, including his wife, but particularly the young women at Pierpoint, Yasmin, Marissa Abella, Venetia, Indy Lewis, and newcomer Sweet Pea, Miriam Petche, who dare to speak up against him. After learning of anonymous complaints about him on the Overheard at Pierpoint subreddit, Rishi tries to sniff out the person responsible, confronting Anrich and harassing Sweet Pea, threatening to expose her OnlyFans account. This and his behavior during his meeting with Human Resources only solidifies how much of, to borrow a phrase from Kendall Roy, a malignant presence he is at Pierpoint. Even Eric, who's been known to scream at employees and carry a baseball bat around the trading floor, tells Rishi he needs to dial it back. Rishi has been a fan favorite, love-to-hate-him character throughout the series, but White Mischief paints quite a depressing picture of Rishi's life outside Pierpoint and how his own personal and financial issues bleed into his behavior at work. At Pierpoint, frequent use of hard drugs is par for the course, but Rishi's cocaine use is an essential part of his cycle of self-destruction. The nature of his job perpetuates and even rewards the vicious cycle at the center of his life, gambling away the wealth he should theoretically have and leaving him thousands in debt and running to the casino. Like Eric, Rishi represents a toxic part of Pierpoint's culture that women like Sarah, Priyanka Burford, and Daria, Freya Maver, were trying to eliminate back in Season 1, and that its younger employees are now recognizing and confronting as abusive. But the fact that his risky, impulsive, and irresponsible behavior ends up making Pierpoint a ton of money makes him more difficult to fire and replace, a fact that Rishi takes full advantage of. Rishi's life, as portrayed in Episode 4, can best be described as a downward spiral, something Succession's #1 boy is intimately familiar with. While there are bits of family drama sprinkled in throughout Industry, in Succession, Kendall is defined by his familial relationships, and we know almost nothing about Rishi's own family and upbringing. Kendall and Rishi are obsessed with proving themselves for very different reasons, though both operate under the guiding principle that money can and will solve all their problems. Kendall simultaneously yearns for his dad's approval and seeks to prove he's more than just a Nepo baby, capable of furthering Waystar Royco's legacy. Rishi is desperate to make enough money, by whatever means necessary, to sustain both versions of himself, the unfaithful, chronic gambler in the city, and the new husband, father, and homeowner in the country. Episode 4 also examines Rishi's deep-rooted misogyny and how it affects his relationship with his wife and his female co-workers, another trait he shares with Kendall. Unlike Kendall, Rishi never pretends, publicly or privately, to be an ally to women, but neither of them can see women as multifaceted human beings, even the ones closest to them. Rishi could get away with his harsh treatment of Yas and Harper while they were still grads in Season 1, and this season he doesn't take Sweet Pea seriously, downplaying her intelligence because of her online sex work. Venetia's presence also throws him off, as she has no problem standing up for herself, and even Yas has started to push back on his misogynistic insults. Kendall's public brand of misogyny is far more subtle than Rishi's, who openly calls Venetia a cunt on the trading floor, but privately, Kendall can be just as bad, disrespecting his ex-wife Rava, Natalie Gold, who raised their kids largely on her own, and lashing out at his sister Shiv, Sarah Snook, with some grossly sexist insults. Both Rishi and Kendall want to disrupt the status quo of their environments, but only in ways that benefit them and without regard for the feelings of others, especially women. Drug abuse also factors majorly into Rishi and Kendall's lives, though Rishi uses drugs to fuel his lifestyle and Kendall uses them as a coping mechanism. Both Rishi and Kendall are trapped in toxic, self-destructive cycles that have a ripple effect on those around them in their professional and personal lives. When Rishi finally returns home to Diana, who confronts him about his gambling and infidelity, she delivers this devastating line: "It's easier to raise strong boys than to fix broken men." This not only sums up everything we've just learned about Rishi's character, but would fit right into an episode of Succession as a description of Kendall.